morning, Maggie. It's Saturday morning, March 8th, and this morning, we're headed towards Laredo, Texas to go to the Zapata County Fair, and we're going to be going through Tata's Texas A&M scrapbooks. So where should we start?
All right, let's start with this first one.
And if you can, speak a little loud because the highway gets a little loud, so raising your voice would be perfectly fine with me.
This is heavy. This has like the class ring at the top, and then it says Aguiland.
What year is that?
This is 1962.
It is, and they're incredibly heavy. I mean,
I know. Wait, so is this a yearbook or?
Yeah, that's the yearbook.
I wonder if they still do that, like yearbooks for universities.
I think they do. If I'm not mistaken, I think they do. For most colleges, a big deal. So in the index, one of the things that surprised me is how many things your grandfather was involved in. So, towards the very back, it'll have all the numbers. So I'll let you go. You do whatever you want to do. We have 2 hours. We get to Laredo. Hopefully, this will be a 1 hour video.
Well, the first thing that's interesting is it's where it says from the desk of the editor, and it says a year of controversy. This is how we would title 1961 to 1962 at A&M. But we also feel like this controversy on campus is not clouded, but rather brightened the future of A&M College. It seems to us that controversy almost always precedes progress. With the first reports of the Century Council in, the future is already taking a turn for the brighter side. Oh, the question of co-education, non-compulsory course, and name change are going to rise again. However, whatever decisions are made, we feel sure that they will be made for the best for a promising future.
That's fascinating that in the early 60s they're dealing with these issues having to do with women in the Corps and all that other stuff. Of course, the Vietnam War was going on at this time, if I'm not mistaken, or in the early stages.
That was interesting. And then the first page is the university, which I'm curious to see how different the landscape would look now. I'm sure you would see a Dunkin' Donuts, I don't know, a Taco Bell or something. I've never been, so I don't know, but I would assume so, I guess. But it's big, it's really big.
I tell you, those Texas A&M people loyal to the core. I've never understood it, but I admire it. They don't play around. They love that school.
How did you feel when you first saw it? Or which one did you first look at? Do you know?
In regards to these scrapbooks? No.
Yeah, with the yearbooks and stuff.
Back in high school, I remember us having to scrap a yearbook. I never bought it. I know. I never bought it. It was $50. I said, I'm not interested in buying it. But back in the day, I know in high school, it was a big deal where people would write all over the yearbook. And I know your grandmother, we have 3 or 4 of them from your grandmother. We don't have them here. But, man, they wrote an entire essays inside of those things.
I kind of felt the same way. I was just these are a little expensive. And, at least for high school, I know I bought the senior year one because I was I at least need one. And I actually had an article written about me in my senior year yearbook. One of the girls from the yearbook had reached out to me at the beginning of senior year, and she wrote a page on me about the fundraiser that me and Melanie did. So that's neat.
reading that scrapbook, do they look all like all the same haircuts and same types of glasses?
Yeah, same type of glasses. Everyone is like very clean cut. Like I feel like that's in general. Like everyone has their hair. Like even the guys, which is impressive. Yeah, everyone just looks very like clean cut. I feel like now at university, and also like high school, but also university, people just show up in like pajamas. Like it's really it's really crazy. People show up in like their plaid pajamas, and like no hate, because I'm sure you know you have a really early class, but I feel like the more relaxed look is a lot more normalized. And I'm guilty of that sometimes if I'm really over. Like, finals week, that's rough.
I think that some of these classes, the men would go to school in suits, like they were suit ties. And I don't know if there's any pictures of people at Texas A&M wearing suit ties to class. I mean, that just blows my mind, wearing a 3-piece suit. Active in certain clubs, but I did see some club activity. He got around town. I mean, he was out there doing stuff, or you know, not partying out, but I'm talking about like the clubs and so forth.
Yeah, he even like his high school yearbook. He had so many people sign it, and like he was active in a lot of things. I was like, dang, I wasn't even active in that many things in high school, but like in leadership positions too, which I think it takes like a very special type of person to get into that, especially so early on.
We need to go over that. I don't have that. His Martin High School yearbook. I need to grab that from your grandmother. I didn't realize that he had that. I went into the garage and I found these books, and your grandmother said I could take them for this project. I plan to take them back.
I'm seeing some of like the t-shirts, and I'm like, ooh, this would be nice to have. Like this would be such a good vintage find.
Now, what do some of them say? Do they have like graphic artwork, or are they just plain?
No, just like something like this, like a graphic.
See, is it possible for you to show that to the camera? I don't know, because if you find pictures of your grandfather, which I know are there, it'd be fascinating if you could kind of show them off.
Yes.
They're heavy books for sure. It's incredible to think that book is older than I am. Survived all of these years. It's phenomenal when you contemplate that they had no computers back then, no mobile phones. You literally had to communicate by phone, by going to a certain office, grabbing a phone, calling someone, hoping they're there. But how he got through engineering school with no computers, calculators. I guess they had some kind of calculator back in the day, but I'm sure it was nothing to what we have in our phones.
A lot of like in middle school, our calculators had like digital screens. Like it's crazy how far we've come. And I actually remember we had a conversation once. I think it was like high school, but he was talking about. He kind of like said the same thing. Like, yeah, we didn't have anything. We didn't have like any technology, and he was kind of just saying like it's so much easier
house to go inside to film. The first house is vacant, no one lives there. And I met a young man who I interviewed for this series, Juan Maldonado. I asked him if he could help me make contact with him. I wrote him. I haven't heard back from him yet. But and I asked him if he could introduce us to these people, the homeowners, so we can get in there. Never heard from him. So this morning, this is an ongoing adventure. We're going to find out if they will allow us to go in. And I brought some cash money too. Brought $75 and $1 bills, hoping they allow the two of us to walk in there and film. And it's amazing to think this house has been essentially unimproved for the past 40, 50 years. I mean, it has not changed inside, because you can tell from the outside it's still a mess. It's just, they have not they haven't kept it up for sure. And if we could go in there, that would be so powerful, because I think it's part of the story. This humble man was born in this house with a bunch of family members. They all had to share a bed, share food, and the crazy part is that we lived on Matamoros Street, 505 Matamoros Street, which was literally 2 blocks away from the house he was born in. And the second house that he lived was on Farragut, and I've already posted videos about those two houses, but he literally did not walk us down there and say, this is where I was born, this is where I lived. And your grandmother was so surprised, like, we were 2 blocks away. I says, yes, literally 2 blocks away from those two houses. And I don't know if he was so humble that he just didn't want us to say, oh my God, you know, look, you came from nothing, you have made it. But he kept that to himself, and he never told us. I think it would have been great to have known, because I would have admired him, but I would have admired him even more glasses? It is his face structure. How do you know, like, automatically, oh, that's him?
I would say, yeah, like the glasses and the face structure. He has a very, I don't know. He just looks the same, like, to me, which is funny because I guess he's like my age, or I guess I'm older than him. In this, he's probably like 18, right? Yeah, 18 or 19. Yeah, and he has a clean cut haircut too. Interesting. Oh wow! Well, this is interesting because right next to it is a pre-med and pre-dent society, and as a pre-med, it's also like funny to see, or not funny, but like interesting to see that there are these clubs too. And it's also funny because it says proving that all doctors from Texas A&M are veterinarians. It's this group of medical-minded young men. Oh wow! Interesting. The pre-med and the pre-dent society are only men.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I was like, what? And it says this group of medical-minded young men to aid its members in choosing the proper graduate school. And all of the pictures are just guys.
Times have changed, huh?
For real. Now all of like the pre-med and the pre-dent groups, like the majority are girls. So that's really interesting, inspiring.
Most definitely. What about the composition of the students? Are there Martinez last names? Are there black people in there? Any kind of observations?
I don't think I've seen a black person, which actually is something that I didn't realize up until now, that I haven't seen that. I have a feeling that I may not. Let's see. It's mainly like a lot of white guys. Yeah. Granted, in the pre-med and pre-dent society in the picture, I think there's like one Indian guy, I think. Or Hispanic. I know it's black and white, so I can't really tell.
I love the observation you made about, well, not all of the medical professionals are veterinarians. And Gabriella had been joking about that literally 10 days ago, saying like, oh, you know, A&M just puts out a bunch of veterinarians and people that do stuff. So they were grappling with the same stereotype back in 1961. Is that funny?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I know. The first thing I noticed. It's the first thing that they even said.
Oh, we're a bunch of farmers, a bunch of hicks. And sometimes I feel like the A&M people, they almost like that image. Oh just think we're a bunch of hicks, we're a bunch of hillbillies. But in reality, we're out running companies in Thailand, Korea, Switzerland. I mean, because they have students from all over the world, and they've spanned out. I'm sure, like in a place like Great Britain, I'm sure they have very vibrant Texas A&M clubs from just the graduates that live over there. Yeah, we're dumb. Yeah, we're stupid. Make jokes about us, but oh, by the way, we're running major corporations all over the world, which is true. Like, they really help each other out. What about, you haven't talked about women. Are there a scattering of women in there? And are they in certain regions? Because I would imagine that there's stereotypical segments that where you would think, oh, there's more men in there because, as they said, you know, oh, only men study medicine or only men go into farming.
I'm going through all the clubs, and there's not a single. The only time there's a woman is like if they're like a sweetheart, which means like they're kind of like representing the club. I like now I only recognize like sweethearts as like with frauds and stuff, but they have this for clubs too. And like long time.
Just the concept of having the school publish a student smoking a cigarette, that alone is so massive. I know I told you, but back at Clark High School in 1985, 86, there was a smoking section. Like, parents could say, oh yeah, my son or daughter can smoke. And you would literally go, it was an area behind the cafeteria at Clark High School. And it was like a little passageway between buildings. And there was a teacher there smoking with the students. And it was the most surreal thing in the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Back in Laredo, I don't know what I did, but I was an unruly elementary school child. And one day they hauled me to the office and literally spanked me with with a big paddle, a big wood paddle. Oh my God, it hurts so much. Even that, think about that. That was in maybe 82. No. This would have been 79, 78. The notion of a complete stranger taking your kid to the office and physically beating the crap out of them with a paddle just blows my mind. But oh yeah, it was accepted.
It's crazy. Teachers aren't even allowed to like touch kids. Like now. Like it's very yeah, that's crazy.
So for so many years your grandfather took you and your sister to school. One of the things that stood out in my mind when I was 6 to 7 years old was we would go to a party and we'd be sitting in front of the house, right? And let's just say the party started at 8. And at 7:58, like we'd be around the corner. And then at 7:59, the car would move like a little bit. And then 7:59.2, we literally pulled up to the mailbox of this house, and it was 8 on point. And I don't have a lot of memories of being, 5 or 6 years old, but I remember that precision, that obsession with time, and being there at the scheduled hour. And I thought to myself, this man is crazy. And then I caught myself many years later doing the same thing. But where I'm going with this is that when he told you I'm going to be there at this time, y'all didn't play around. You were there for sure, right?
Yes, all the time. I was never he was always there, like literally like on the dot. Very, very reliable.
And it was almost a thing where even your sister, and I'm sure she's going to be watching this, but her sense of time can be just a little off. She kind of has like that Mexicano, I'll get there when I get there. Even she was in line. She didn't play around with your grandfather. She's like, I'll be there at 8. Okay, I'll be there.
Yeah. I think I ended up adopting that. I'm always there early, or I'm always there like right on time, regardless of the situation. In fact, it's so funny because we went to Matamoros for a birthday dinner, and it started at like 5, let's just say 5 or 7. Anyway, so then I brought Mason, and so we're there at like 7:50 or 7:55, and I'm like, okay, like we can just sit in the car, and then it hit 7, and so I was like, all right, we can go now. And then we walk in, and like not even like the people who are like organizing there are fully there yet, and I was like, and then we were literally like one of the only people there, and I was like, oh, I forgot this is like not like people are used to being fashionably late, but I feel like it's just been for me like being there on time, being there early is very ingrained in my head, so I forget that sometimes. Like, yeah, I forget.
And after going to Laredo and talking to family members, it's my feeling that my maternal grandmother, Aurora San Martin Solis, who was born in Candela, Mexico, was super strict, super focused on doing everything in a very clean way, and also being the type of person who would offer advice and counsel. But I think that very strict mindset is where it originated, because she was always on time. When she would clean her dishes, it's my understanding she would boil water like insanely hot, crazy hot, because they didn't have dishwashers back then. So she would put all of her dishes in there so all the germs would be killed off. And you just think to yourself, well, back in the 20s and 30s, that was probably a big public health issue, right? Germs, getting sick from, who knows, whatever's sitting around and that could become a parasite in your stomach. Like, that was a very real thing. So I sometimes wonder, did he get it from his mom, who was like that, super strict, super on time, an obsession with cleaning, like, oh my God, insanely focused on doing it the right way. So who knows? This is why these stories are just wonderful to hear, because we'll never know, but some things are just known. Like, he was obsessed with time, and here, like, I saw that, you lived it, and most people nowadays really will show up 20 minutes late and won't even say sorry.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a really good habit that I'm glad that I formed pretty early on, especially when it comes to like school or anything professional. Really, I think it says a lot, because a lot of people aren't like that. I feel like, and then also just like managing your time, thinking about things ahead of time and being like, okay, I need to Elda's calling. Yeah, so like thinking things out, like, okay, it takes me so and so time to get ready. I'll need to get ready 2 hours in advance to be done 30 minutes before. So I feel like it's helped me manage my time in that way.
Well, a few moments ago I was talking about family members helping with this project, and ironically, my cousin, my prima Elda, who is the daughter of Tia Carmen, who I visited 3 weeks ago, I told her and Chester, her husband, that we would be driving to Laredo today, and I'd be willing to pick up the albums, the family albums that they offered to give me for this project. Chester, her husband, knows so much about Solis family lore because of his connection with his father-in-law, my padrino, godfather, Tio Neto, or Tio Ernesto. So she's calling. I hadn't heard from them. I sent them messages. I even wrote them saying I'm going to be in Laredo. So what will happen is, after this 1 hour interview, I'll have to call her and see what's up. And you and I decided to go in this car separately from your uncle Carlos and Gabriela and your grandmother, because I wanted space in the back for those albums. Since they didn't respond, I didn't think we'd have a chance, but now I think we're gonna have a chance to pick up these albums, and you'll be able to meet my godmother, my madrina. So this whole thing is like making these unique circles, and they were fabulous. I sat down with them for an hour and 27 minutes, and oh my God, the stories that are actually online right now, because as I've recorded these stories, I've also uploaded them. So thank you for reminding me to contact Elda. I feel like this project has been incredible because the hand of God has moved in so many crazy ways, and I'll tell you one that applies to this Sunday. So your grandfather was an entrepreneur for about 3 to 5 years in Laredo, Texas, and I remembered the name of his business partner, and I know her son, Kino, right? So I was thinking, where am I going to track this Kino guy down? Because he knows how to reach his mom. And I'm thinking, God almighty, you know, I couldn't find him on Facebook, and I just didn't know where else to reach out to. So I had to pick up a photograph order with pictures of your grandmother and pictures of some roses for a project that I'm working on for her, a gift, right? So I go to CVS. This voice told me, go to CVS, go pick up the order now. I could have waited later. I'm literally in line. I turn around and Kino is standing there.
What?
Kino, the dude that I've been thinking about 10 days before, a guy I had not seen in 20 years. In fact, he helped me connect with Meg, and I'm going to visit with Meg tomorrow. Now, how do you account for such a supernatural thing like that? I mean, it makes no logical sense other than your grandfather is behind this, he's helping, because San Antonio is not Zapata, Texas, right? I mean, you have 1.6 million people, and this dude is standing behind me at a CVS, and he doesn't even live in that neighborhood. So I think that this project, your grandmother told me your grandfather always wanted to write a book, right? And he never got around to it. And I always feel like he loved family history, he loved sharing family lore, and I think that this, which is basically a documentary in different chapters, right? I'm not gonna, all these interviews are gonna be uploaded, posted, unedited. You're gonna see everything. And I didn't want to create just one documentary where I splice stories and I put it together. My feeling is it's a living work of art. It's a living documentary. So I think we're writing the book that he always wanted to write. And the wonderful part is, you know, there's no final chapter. As we interview the scholarship students, I'm going to film them, upload them, because they're now going to be part of his history out of Laredo, Texas, and so forth. So this is why these scrapbooks are important, because I want these students to hopefully watch these videos and say, you're now part of this history, and there's a connection between Texas A&M and these scrapbooks and you in 2025, 2026. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. That's crazy. So how did you go up to him? I mean, like, how did you recognize him?
I mean, because I've known the family so long, he looked the same, and, you know, I look obviously a little different because I did not have a beard back in the day. But we recognize each other. In fact, he lost his son. His son, if I'm not mistaken, I forget which university he went to, and Kino didn't say how he lost his son, but it had been so long that I had not seen him that not only did he have a son, he lost his son. And one more thing on this before we get back to the college books, but for the first time ever, I went to Cindy Alejo's house, my prima, and I visited with her and her husband, Fred Alejos. In fact, that was the second or the third interview, and she gave me the commencement program from Texas A&M when your grandfather received his master's in aerospace engineering. So that's something we're going to go over in a few moments. And I had dinner with them. I had dinner with my primo Jorge Luna and his wife Isabel Luna, and I thought to myself, this is kind of sad that it had to take the passing of your grandfather before I went to their homes and sat with them and filmed them, heard their stories. And that's been kind of an awakening in this whole process, is almost learning your family history on your paternal side that you really never knew. And this is why this journey is my journey. It's also your journey too, because you share this last name, this heritage, and so forth.
Yeah, that's why I'm also excited about it. I feel like it's so relevant to everything, understanding like how I got here, how you got here. I mean, everything is just traced back to decisions made, and
hey Cindy, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And about 4 weeks ago, my prima Cindy, she sends me a genealogy tree of both sides. Our grandmother, Aurora San Martin, and then our grandfather, Francisco Solis. And that document she sent to me by text or image, like, completely changed things for me, because I was like, hold on, our grandmother was born in Candela, Mexico. So here's another mystical and magical story. I go online and I find this journalist by the name of Cifuentes, Ernesto Cifuentes. And he has, it's like the Drudge Report of Coahuila, and he just goes around town, he takes pictures similar to what I do at Instagram. And now the sun's finally coming up. By the way, there's some sunglasses there if the light starts bothering you. So I write him, I create a YouTube video, and I say, Mr. Cifuentes, my grandmother was born in Candela, Mexico, which is really this highway. If you take this highway and you go into Mexico and you go from Nuevo Laredo and take highway number 1, it actually goes to her hometown in Candela, Mexico. You need to take one right on 83 in Mexico. But even this path, this highway, has her entire history, or our history, from Candela, Mexico to San Antonio. So I write this man, I create this video, and I say, listen, I'm working on this project, I need 10 videos. I'm still waiting on a proposal from him, but he said, oh, you know, I'm working on your quote, and I spoke to someone at the Candela Tourism Department, and they have the documents you sent me about your grandmother. They're excited about this because they're hoping to promote Candela as a tourist spot. So this is new family research. Okay, there's knowledge that she was born there, but what I'm hoping to do is to get video of what does the town look like, right? Are there Solis or San Miguel cousins in San Miguel? And here's another one that'll blow your mind. And I was going to make a video just about this, but we might as well do it here. I'm at the post office. This happened 2 weeks ago. And another situation you cannot even make up. I'm at the post office, and something told me, in fact, I was mailing something, I think to Chester. Yeah, I was mailing an envelope to Chester because Chester told me in Laredo that Tío Ernesto, my godfather, made a video. He filmed it. Chester videoed it of Tío Neto going to the old house that we're going to visit shortly. And he was wearing a suit and a cowboy hat, and then, you know, he shows all of old Laredo, the family, and he said, I need to find it and mail it to you. So what I did was I created an envelope, put another envelope in there with my mailing label and stamps, and I said, Chester, please mail me the VHS in this envelope. Postage is paid. So the reason I tell you the story is I'm at the post office mailing this one specific thing, and I thought, I'm going to check to see if I put enough postage on it, and I didn't. Thank God I didn't. So I walk out, I see this white truck, and for some reason something told me, look at the license plate, and it says Coahuila, Mexico. What are the odds? So this man who lives in Monclova, Coahuila, and by the way, Candela, where my paternal grandmother, your great-grandmother, was born, isn't the state of Coahuila. So the guy had just driven in from Mexico at 4 in the morning. He was at the post office mailing something. I walk inside, and this guy's like, yeah, that's my truck. Why are you asking? And I said, I'm doing this research study. To make a long story short, he's like, oh my God, I have friends in Candela, Mexico. Here's my phone number. We exchanged WhatsApp phone numbers. And I wrote him, and he says, oh, I've got a friend in Coahuila, in the state of Coahuila, and he's a professor, and he studies history. But there's one family that I know that has not left Coahuila since it was founded in 1690 by the Spaniards. And I'm thinking, again, what are the odds of this happening? And the mystical part of me is thinking, it was your grandfather, or it is your grandfather's spirit making all these weird things happen. Because again, what are the odds that this man from Coahuila is in San Antonio at the post office and I stopped the dude? He's like, oh yeah, here's my phone number. That's too odd.
Yeah, for sure. Things like that are definitely not coincidence. By coincidence. So, yeah, that's a really crazy string of events.
Absolutely. And just, I think that having people have faith in wanting to talk to us, to tell our story, that alone, I admire it, because it's hard. It's not easy to talk about these things, especially when I was interviewing Mrs. Lupita Castañeda and your grandfather's best friend, Dr. Pete Castañeda, and I could tell he was struggling, really struggling in our interview, because your father meant so much to him, and there were some things he did not even know, because I told him, and he was like, oh really? So it's such a great discovery for all of us, right? To learn things about our history. And also, Mrs. Castañeda made a very good point. She said, this is really a sociology study, studying the life of times of Laredo in the 50s. Like, what did people go through? In one of the videos, Tio René was asked by his father, my grandfather Solis, if it was possible, because they were visiting, I think they were visiting your grandfather at College Station, and your grandfather Francisco Solis asks my uncle René Solis, do you think they'll serve us inside? And you think to yourself, holy moly, that was like 1963, and your grandfather, because of his Mexican birth, he was concerned that he may not get served in a restaurant as a Latino man. And you just think, these are the life and times. This wasn't 500 years ago. This was literally in the 60s. Like, that alone, I think it's a cool part of this. And also, as you go through the scrapbook, seeing the pictures of no men, no women, no black people, actually men, but no women, and even that alone shows you how much times have changed. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going through the class of 61, I believe, or seniors, and there aren't any women at all. So I was just gonna search up. I'm like, well, did any women actually study here, or did they just come to visit? Let me see. I'll search that up.
Well, if you're viewing this, thank you so much for participating in this program.
All right, some history. It says, while initially a primarily military all-male institution, the university opened its doors to women on a limited basis in 1963.
Oh wow!
So this is a year after this yearbook was made. So that makes sense why in the book it was talking about like controversy and like coeducation, and that makes so much sense, because I was like looking through all of the clubs, everything, and I was like, there's not a single woman. I was confused, but I see them like at parties, but not in like the book or anything.
So the women are ornaments in the yearbook. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, you just see them at parties. So, and it's interesting too, because there's like some pages that are colored, so it gives like nice insight like this.
Oh, that's cool. That's like a mid-century modern, and that's all the rage right now. Ironically, in 2025.
Yep. So getting a look into like the architecture. And then there was another one too. Oh, what was this one? I guess it's just like people mingling.
A lot of people are wearing white pants, which is odd.
Yeah.
I wonder where that came from. Like, white pants are hard to keep clean. By the way, did that solution work that with the vinegar or the bleach and the
Oh, the OxyClean?
yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
Good. second video before we get into Laredo, Texas. So right now we are approaching, for those of you watching us, Nueces River. Oh my goodness, that's so incredible. There's another coincidence there. Our paternal grandparents were migrant workers and they focused on pecans. So Nueces River means nuts. And again, the coincidences are just insane. In fact, it was the Spanish out of Candela, Mexico that actually arrived at Nueces River. And that was one of the first missionary sites, but they had to move it because there were so many Indians attacking them. And in the space which is now Texas, they actually moved it to Mission Espada. So again, lots of stories, things having to do with nuts. And ironically, I eat crushed almonds every day. They're not exactly peanuts, or pecans, but a lot of nuttiness going on.
They're in the same family.
Yeah, they're in the same family. There you go.
Same. They're cousins. This is the last one picture. And he's right.
I like the way that yearbook. I bet you it's like 7 pounds. It is so heavy.
It is heavy. Yeah, it's really heavy. There's a lot of pages.
Can you imagine what a thrill for your grandfather to go from living in a house with a bunch of kids to going to Texas A&M with all of these people from all over the nation, mainly from Texas, of course, but that must have been a thrill. Like, oh my God, I'm in a different world.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he transitioned extremely well. You would never know this humble Latino man literally came from a super humble background.
Very impressive for sure.
Out of curiosity, when you would travel with your father, your grandfather, to school, like, was he quiet most of the time? Did he want to talk? I know you're often quiet because you're thinking about tests, but what was the breakdown with him talking or him listening?
I feel like it would be like 50-50. Sometimes it would just kind of be quiet and we'd just be listening to music because he always had like his phone or his iPod connected and playing like 60s music, I would say. But other times, like, yeah, we would have some conversations sometimes. It's just about like his day or I don't know, different things like that.
I think at the reception it was brought up that your grandfather actually saw Selena Quintanilla in concert in Laredo. I was thinking, oh my God, I can't even imagine your grandfather going to a Selena concert in Laredo.
I think Melanie knows that story. I think she's the one who found that out. I think.
Now, about 5 years ago, your grandfather told me, hey, I've got these cassettes. I don't know if you want them or not. And they were original Selena cassettes. And I eventually sold them for like $60 to $70 to a collector because I thought, no, these really should go to a collector. And then I needed the money. I think I was sick at the time. And he took care of them. Oh my God. He took care of his cassettes and his DVDs like nobody's business. And now the last concert your grandfather went to, unless I'm wrong, was Luis Miguel. And I took your grandmother and grandfather. I was their Uber to the concert, and it was funny because I knew he was not going to want to sit down in that seat for 20 to 30 minutes because Luis Miguel is usually 15 to 20 minutes late. So we arrived at the Frost or the AT&T Center, and I said, okay, let's not go to the seats, let's go to the bar. And that's what we did. Went to the bar, and he got his beer, and at this point he was a little frail, and he tipped over the beer, and I said no problem, and the person at the bar gave me a replacement. And then because I knew Luis Miguel started at about 7:15, I started walking them over at about 7:11, 7:12. Isn't that funny? Getting back to being so precise. As soon as they got there, the concert started, and then your grandfather starts texting me. He says, "This music is too loud. Why is it so loud?" And I said, "Okay, the ballads are coming. Don't worry." And I thought, compared to the concert we've been to, that is not loud at all. I mean, they're like fast love songs, but he was getting flustered. He said, "This is too loud. Where are the soft songs?" And eventually they came, but that was the first time I took them to a concert, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that must have been fun to something like so out of their ordinary, schedule.
I sometimes think that that there were like two factions that your grandfather had in the family, and it was like Carlos and your Tio Carlos and Tia Terry and Gabriela. Like, they were the normal ones, right? They would do like the really cool normal stuff, and I think your grandfather and you, that we were odd. And I'm referring to myself, you, and your sister, because some of the stuff we would do would be kind of crazy, right? Like, we went to New Mexico, I think 6 years ago, and I tell your grandfather, "Well, Dad, we're gonna arrive in Albuquerque at, I don't know, 7 at night. We're gonna go to Walmart, and the next morning at 5, we're gonna check into a hotel in Albuquerque, and we're gonna drive out to Chaco Canyon at 6 in the morning, like literally sleep in the hotel for like 4 hours, right? We're gonna go into Chaco Canyon. I hired a Navajo guide, and then from there we're gonna go into Arizona to go see the Grand Canyon the same day." And your grandfather's like, "Hold on, you gonna do what? No, I don't think you should go. I don't think you should be driving to Arizona." I said, No, Dad, we got this. We're gonna do it." So when we were gonna be together for one Thursday, and when your sister wanted to see Lana Del Rey, we're the ones who came up with the crazy idea of, "Oh, let's play hooky this Thursday afternoon at noon, fly to Dallas, go to the concert, and be back 1 hour before the school bell rings." And we pulled it off. So I sometimes feel like he looked at us like we were the odd ones in the family, but I know he loved our stories. Like, he really loved hearing us talk about some of the crazy things we would do. And he never really like said, "Don't do this, don't do that," unless he thought it was something odd. But I think he enjoyed hearing about our adventures. And I think the one adventure he never knew about, I don't think your grandmother ever knew about this, so she's going to find out now, is when we were on this cruise together. And so your grandfather, this was another thing, he had to eat on time, right? Like, if he said, "We're going to eat at 11:30 a.m., we're going to eat at 11, that food better hit the plate at 11:30, without a doubt. So on the cruise, we would dock somewhere, like, let's say, I don't know, what was one of the islands? I don't even remember.
Like,
It wasn't Jamaica.
no, it was,
St. Croix?
so, yeah.
So let's say St. Croix. We arrived at St. Croix, and then we get off the ship at 10. Then your grandfather is reminding us, "Hey, listen, the lunch is at 11:45, and we want to be part of the first group." So we'd get down, and we would be all interested in, "Oh, let's go to this museum, let's do this, let's do that." But they said, no, we'll just walk around the little town square and see all of the corporate gift shops and all the little gift shops. And there was one, I think it was at St. Croix, where we had lunch with them, and we literally walked off the boat, went, and we found some service, a tour guide who took us to the rain forest, and your grandfather would have been furious. He would have been like, "You did what?" And we pulled that stunt off, and we never told him that. And then we thank God I checked my clock because I didn't realize that there was a time difference, and thank God we made the boat returning. But what I'm getting to is that I think our little tribe, the three of us, we were always doing crazy stuff, going to the weirdest concerts and functions, and oh, let's do cooking school, let's do this dance techno school, DJ school. So I think where I'm going with this is that I think he respected us and our crazy things and the crazy adventures, and he never really criticized us or made judgments, but I think in a small way he kind of like admired that we would be risk takers. Any thoughts on that?
I would agree, so yeah, because he never like opposed of anything, but he was always looking forward to hearing stories and sharing it over dinner or something. So yeah.
And I think the crazier the story, the more he really liked it. I don't know why, because he just loved hearing these stories. And now I would say that my brother's success in business with his law firm, 50% Latino law firm, his real estate success, his projects, my dad really admired that. And I think in his eyes, within 2 generations, he could say someone in our family achieved the height of success in law, real estate, investing, and he would talk about the projects all the time because he was involved in many of them. Carlos would say, hey, can you check out the foundation here? Can you check out this? So your grandfather was a great resource, but even in the hospital, he was like, he could tell, oh, Carlos made this transaction, he sold it for this, and he loved going over there and seeing the house and looking at all the projects, and he loved to talk about that, and he took pride in that, and only he would be able to appreciate that coming from where he came from, right? This super humble home to really reaching the pinnacle within 2 generations, which again is part of this documentary. It's this great American love story that, this is what happened out of Laredo, Texas, no less. Well, Georgie, before we cut out, any final thoughts as we are close to Laredo, probably like 50 minutes out? Any final close thoughts about what I just said?
Yeah. I think he was very proud.
Very nice. Okay, Georgie, well, I'll let you, since I'm driving, I'll let you stop the video, and we'll say goodbye until the next one.
Bye. See you the next